these creatures are here out of love, every of these animals. And that I think sometimes we forget so easily, that this is all a cycle of love. The highest serves the lowest, and the lowest serves the highest. The higher being, like the spirit, like human beings, should serve the animals as the animals serve us. And they want to be our friends. They respect us. They see us as their bigger brothers and sisters. When they look up to us, they say, oh, one day I will be that too. Why is this person treating me so badly? Why is this person so angry? They are stunned by the way we human beings behave towards the animal and to each other and to ourselves. It's difficult for them to comprehend. That's why they look with big eyes and says, what's wrong with this hugely, highly evolved being? And how are they acting towards themselves and others?
Hi, I'm Carol Saunders, host of the Spiritual Forum podcast. This podcast is a voice of hope, inspiration, and awakening. And if you're on a spiritual journey, the people that I talk to from around the world will inspire you with their wisdom and their insights. I'm glad that you're here. Remember to step into your divine nature, and welcome to the forum. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so happy to be with you today, and I can't wait to introduce you to my guest, who is Hans Wilhelm. And just a brief reminder about my retreat, not going to say much about it, but it is the intersection of spirituality and earth consciousness and animal awareness. And we're going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about that a lot today with Hans. So I hope you consider coming October 29th through November 1st at Unity Village, Missouri. You can learn more about it on my website, thespiritualforum.org/retreat. So let me tell you about Hans. Hans Wilhelm is a mystic, best-selling author and illustrator of over 200 books for all ages, including some together with Byron Katie. His books have sold over 40 million copies and are translated into 30 languages. His YouTube videos explain and depict the spiritual laws of the universe. You can find that at Life Explained on YouTube. And they're non-denominational, and they've become an important source of inspiration and help for his over 20 million viewers around the world, which is so impressive. Hans has been on my podcast twice before, and I kind of like having him on every year or so because we have such fun conversations. Welcome, Hans.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, Carol. Thank you so much for inviting me again. It's lovely to see you again.
It's great to see you too. I just can't wait to dig in. We're going to be talking today about the source of the teachings that Hans puts into video form. And we're going to be talking about his video all about animals and also a little bit about the Beatitudes. And we're going to wrap it all up and just have a really interesting conversation about these teachings. But before we go into that, Hans, can you just answer a few rapid fire questions? And one would be probably pretty easy to share a person who's been influential in your life.
Well, most influential, I think, is for me Gabriele, whose teaching I am following for more than 40 years now. Gabriele is what we could call a prophetess, or people say she channeled the material from the absolute reality and made hundreds of books available and gave teachings. And this is the basis of my spiritual video channel. As you say, it's not linked to any kind of organization or any church and so on. It's pure spirituality. And what I do visually show how all these spiritual laws connect.
It's so clever. It's such a clever way to teach because people really flock to your YouTube channel. And it's just so entertaining. Your voice is so lovely and your illustrations are lovely. And also, before I get to the next question, I have bought some of your children's book for my new granddaughter. So I'm looking forward to reading those to her when she gets a little bit older.
Thank you.
Yes. Can you share a favorite place? It could be anywhere on the planet.
My favorite place, of course, is always Africa for me. I've lived in Africa for many years, and my heart always goes back there. It's difficult to live these days, but when I lived there, it was wonderful, and I had a wonderful time. And I loved the people, the animals, the weather, everything was perfect. And so if you ask me, the first thing which comes up, immediately Africa.
Wonderful. Oh, that's wonderful. Filled with life, teeming with life. Okay, so I mentioned that you've written children's books. What do you think is the most important lesson for kids to learn?
gosh, that's scary. We all have to learn the same thing, is to love. And whether you're a child or whether you're an adult. And I think that's what the soul who incarnates as a child, the purpose for the soul is to learn to love here, basically. And yeah, I would say that's the answer, to learn to love. I don't think it's much different between a child and an adult. We all have to learn to love again.
Yes, I completely agree, and I think your children's books definitely point to that. Yeah, whether whether we're children or adults, we need to learn to love. I think children probably have a little easier time with it. You know, they're a little closer to the divine, I think, coming, in from whatever realm they came in from. And adults have been so conditioned and we've forgotten a lot. So I think we adults may be the hardest students at that. But anyway, okay, so let's dig into your source material and Gabriele. And you've recently created a video. I don't think it's been published yet, but it really shares your whole journey with her and really, as you said, she's really influenced your life. Can you share a little bit about how you came to learn about her and take on this idea of translating her teachings into videos, and now that you are sharing these non-denominational teachings with the whole world?
Well, I've always been interested in the question, where do I come from, why am I here, and where we are going, as a child already, and studied many, many spiritual paths, all the well-known paths which we now have available, of course, a Miracle and so on, a KC and so on. I've studied them all, and I always got a lot out of them. But then suddenly, some 40 years ago, I suddenly stumbled on a path which came through a woman in Germany. Her name is Gabriele, and I was blown away about the simplicity, the clarity, that it was not linked to any organization. There was no hierarchy. There were no teachers. There is no membership. It is really the path within. It's just you and divinity. And I really liked this. There was no dogmas and there was no rituals and no traditions. So it really vibrated with me. I really liked that. And I studied more and more about this material, all the blue books in the back around, basically mostly by her or her teachings. And I went to Germany. I lived in Germany for a while, and I had the teachings. I was present when Gabriele gave her teachings there. And over time, I found out that these teachings have helped me a lot. It's not just intellectual knowledge. I could also apply it in my life. I'm just really enjoying the clarity which is expressed. And you cannot misunderstand it. Because if you read, for instance, Rudolf Stein or Edgar Cayce, these are very difficult texts. You have to read a sentence 3 times to grasp it. This is here, clear and out, straightforward. Anyway, so I have been using this text. I saw the changes in my life. Then through its incident with my father, I told him what he had to experience after death, because he was afraid. He wasn't afraid of it, but he believed there was nothing after death. So I told him all the stuff which happened. And then 5 years later, somebody in a bookstore comes up to me and says, "Hey, your dad comes in here whenever you're dead. I'm a medium, and he just wants to thank you for what you told him. All the things you have mentioned about what happens after death, he experienced, and it had helped him so much. Would I please share this in books?" So it gave me some other information, and I knew that was my father who came through him at that time. I didn't want to write more books, so I decided to want to reach the young people. As we said earlier, the kids are easier to reach, and so I made YouTube videos, and they are very short, 5 to 10 minutes long. And in these videos, I show clearly of how the laws work. I show it visually, and that's basically where I came from, and why I find Gabi's teachings so universal, so clear, and so helpful for me.
Okay, so a couple things I want to say. Her teachings really remind me a bit of the teachings of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who co-founded Unity. But what I think she did that was so smart is what happened with Charles and Myrtle is they received all these teachings, and they were just amazing teachings of truth, and really a whole different view of Christ and Jesus and all. And they started a healing ministry. And so many people came and, really found healing and really found abundance, and it really was helping their lives. But then they kind of, at some point, they thought that these teachings would go out into the world, like infiltrate just regular churches just by people going and sharing them. But it really kind of backfired. And so, or didn't really take, I should say. And so people said, "Oh, let's create our own church." And that's what's so interesting. I think Gabriele did not do that. She did not institutionalize the teachings. And Unity did end up kind of, even though it's just all teachings, but they institutionalized it in a way, ordaining ministers and having churches. And then something shifted with that, you know?
Well, Gabi was so far, she taught it for 50 years, that she didn't allow any photos taken of her. So she didn't want any personality cards. Well, nobody who says, oh, this was a great Gabriele. She was a very special spirit being who incarnated here. But she didn't want anybody to follow her. It was the teaching which were important. And I find that very, very compelling. And so, therefore, there are no teachers. And what I do is, and also not as a teacher, I share my own experience, as I discovered it. And if I can, here, for instance, sorry. Those of you in the video, I show, for instance, how the law of karma works. She speaks about karma, which Christ called the law of sowing and reaping. When we do something, it's got stored in our body, in our soul, etc., in the Akashic records, in the planets, and eventually returns back to the sender. When you see this visually, it becomes much, much clearer than when you just hear it or when you read it. And that's where the success of my videos come from, because I visually show how it all connects.
It's so important because there's different learning styles. You know, some people can't just read. And I'm also very picture oriented. I love seeing images. I love seeing that draw me a picture. And so it makes it so accessible. And also because they're short, you know, attention spans are pretty short. I'll do
Yeah.
this interview for an hour. I have no idea how many people will stay on for a whole hour. There are some loyal ones that do, but people can't hang on that long. So, you know, 5 to 10 minutes is about, or 2 minutes, 3 minutes it's really helpful. So I love what you're doing, and I think it's just been absolutely fantastic. And I think it's just so interesting when somebody's ego can be laid down enough, or at least be permeable enough, that they will say, I'm not going to call this anything, and we're not going to create anything around it. Let's just, and it's not about me. And I don't think the Fillmores were ever that it's about them either, but people tend to do that, you know? Like people did that to Jesus, right? It's all about him. And they miss the teaching. So, well, it's really fascinating. So let's dig into this a little bit, because you always ask me, what do we want to talk about? And we've talked about war, and we've talked about forgiveness, and we've talked about all sorts of spiritual topics. But I really wanted to talk about your video, What About Animals? I thought it was recent, but it looks like it was put out maybe 8 years ago or so. I think it just came up in my feed again. And it's not just a side teachings of hers. It's a pretty predominant teaching.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because I think it was pretty brave putting that forward. She has a lot to say, or the teachings have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I also agree with you that this is really basically the whole inner path is basically in that one teaching. It explains where we came from, why we are here, and why animals are here with us. And basically, it starts with the fact that we all came basically all created from the absolute reality, and every living thing, whether it's a stone, which is alive, or a plant or an animal, started off from one atom, one spiritual atom, being fertilized by divinity, we call it, and then becoming the next step, which is a mineral. And the minerals it's sort of, what's the word? It's a group consciousness, a complex, a soul. And the whole the evolvement goes through the mineral kingdom. And when that is done, it goes to the next level, which is the plant kingdom. Starts with the slowest plants, and then slowly the consciousness goes further and further to higher plants. And when that is over, it goes then into the animal plant, firstly with the group animals like bees and insects and fishes, and then up higher to the individual and partial souls. So the whole evolution goes through all these 4 kingdoms. And then it goes into the nature kingdom realm, which we call the gnomes, the fairies, the devas, and so on, which are the spirit beings who help all the animals. And there the evolution starts. And all increasingly happens, the free will develops with each state a bit more, a bit more, a bit more. And when that phase is closed, the nature being phase, then that entity, that small little being, which we call a spirit being or a nature being, is then adopted by spirit beings, which we call the angelic beings, the sons and daughters of God, as a child, and there it grows up as a whole full spirit being. Now, if I explain it, it's very confusing. Go to my video and see it, how it goes, evolve it. It's much, much easier. So basically what I'm saying is, that you and I and everybody else has gone through the same stages. Everyone has gone through this one. We all have been, in our essence, once a mineral, a plant, an animal kingdom, and nature being kingdoms. We all went through it. And therefore, for this reason, we are also able to communicate with everything around us. Everything is alive because we carry it in ourselves. We have been it. So this is a major important thing. And when we look at an animal today, I say, when we look, for instance, like a little child, it's easy for us to say, oh, yes, I was once also 5 years old and I was silly and so on. We totally forget that if we look at a bird or a bee or a deer, we have been that too. It sounds a little incredible, but we have been there too. And I'm not speaking about the Darwinian evolution. That's a different subject altogether, because we did not evolve on planet Earth. There's no evolution on planet Earth. It is only an adaptation. There are many, many animals which have not incarnated in the absolute reality. It's only a small group of animals which have incarnated here. So there are a lot of missing links in that whole kind of range. So that's where we come from. And we have been these animals. That's why Gabriele calls the animals always our little brother and our little sister, the same as you. Your teacher has mentioned it as well. And it makes a total sense. And therefore, the fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill, does also apply to animals. We always think it's human beings. No, it does also apply to animals. And that's part of the reason why the animal diet is not the best thing for us. To say it, actually, we are burdening ourselves if we eat animal flesh, because the suffering of an animal, the way it's grown up on farms and things like this, all this is karma which we put onto ourselves if we promote that kind of process to exist. Because God, in the first setting, is, I gave you the seed of the trees and the fruit, seed of the plants and the fruits of the trees. Let that be your diet. It's very clearly mentioned in the beginning of the Bible that this is actually where we should live, basically vegetarian. Now, I think Gabi also says very clearly, says, let's be gentle with ourselves. We have been most likely meat eater for eons and eons, from incarnation to incarnation. And suddenly change over to vegetarian is not easy for many people. And they will defend their meat-eating habits eternally. But let it be gradually. Let it be gradually, and know that this is for the better good for yourself and for the animals, and do it out of love. Not to impress other people. It says, oh, I'm a vegetarian now. This is also an ego trip.
Right.
And you better also stop eating meat. A lot
Yeah.
of vegetarians do that. They go around and stop eating meat because it's not good for you. No, before we preach and so on, let it come from love. And when it has happened from love, we don't have the need to preach. People see it, people will respect it. And that's, I think, the ideal version of slowly changing over from a meat diet to a vegetarian diet.
Well, I think it's interesting that in the video you talk about how there's a cycle of love and service, and that the animals can live without us, but we can't live without them, and that they are in service to us, and that we should naturally be in service to them. So there should be this, or ideally created this circle of service and love. And we've broken that. We've either completely forgotten that we have come from this animal realm, or we've adopted this worldview that we are the dominant and that they're just here for us. We're not here to serve them. It's a real break. It's a real break in that beautiful cycle.
Yeah, it's interesting for us to remember the reason why we are on planet Earth is because we have, quote, fallen from the absolute reality. We have, as I said earlier, evolved our free will, which happens from stage to stage, to that extent that some spirit beings at one time said, no longer I want to create my own kind of a realm. And that is what we call the fall of angels. And we are in that temporary reality, which we have created, removing us ourselves from divinity through our own self-will, selfishness, self-ego will. But to survive here on planet Earth, we need, as you say, the animals. So it was only natural that many of the animals in the spiritual realm have decided, out of love and out of service, to incarnate as well to planet Earth, to help us to survive here. They came out of a cycle of love to us. Every animal we see, even the tiger and the leopard and all we call negatives, the spiders and bugs, whatever, they came here out of love for us. That is the original reason why they came here. Because we cannot exist. As Einstein said, if we had no bees, humankind would die out within 4 years. Just think about it. Just one type of animal on which can decide our whole well-being. Existence on planet Earth is dependent, and all the others are in some way as well. So there we are, being totally helpless without the animals, and the animals are here to help us in many, many ways. And we mustn't forget animals. We always think about the ones we see, like the foxes, the deers, and the elephants, and whatever. But the vast majority of animals, creatures, are actually in the soil. There are billions of different type of life forms. They came here for life as well, out of love. And without their work in the soil, we wouldn't be able to grow any food. We wouldn't exist. These are also life forms, and we kill it each time through with Roundup and all these kind of chemicals and so on. But these creatures are here out of love, every of these animals. And that I think sometimes we forget so easily, that this is all a cycle of love. The highest serves the lowest, and the lowest serves the highest. The higher being, like the spirit, like human beings, should serve the animals as the animals serve us. And they want to be our friends. They respect us. They see us as their bigger brothers and sisters. When they look up to us, they say, oh, one day I will be that too. Why is this person treating me so badly? Why is this person so angry? Why is this person? They are stunned by the way how we human beings behave towards the animal and to each other and to ourselves. It's difficult for them to comprehend. That's why they look with big eyes and says, what's wrong with this hugely, highly evolved being? And how are they acting towards themselves and others?
Yeah, I think that a lot of humans think that animals are here to serve us, but mean like served as a platter on the platter. Like they're here to be in service. Like they're here actually giving their lives to us, and I don't think that's what the intention of the service is.
No, people believe that also people also may want to think about why they have pets, as you say. So that I have somebody to love and help me in my loneliness and in my own kind of misery. I've got a companion. And then they take on this animal and then go to work, and the animal is alone for the whole day and so on. It's absolutely cruel. A lot of people have pets only for selfish reasons and so on. Then they dress the dogs up for Halloween and so on. We are not taking it serious. If we are a little child, yes, it's fun sometimes, but we want to be taken serious by the adults. And the animals also want to be taken serious. They don't want to be laughed at or made fun of, or let's forget, even eaten and enslaved. That's another thing. No, animals are very, very sensitive creatures, and very often we forget that these animals are here to help us, but we use them for our own benefits, for our problems. And Gabriele, actually, this is a wonderful book here, which comes from Leo Barney, which is one of the teaching angels in the absolute reality, a whole book about animals and how to treat them. And she says,
what is it called? What is it called?
this is called You the Animal dash You the Human Being, the comparison.
Okay.
It's good. I can actually send you a link later on to that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And she says it so on, before you have a pet, and how does she word it? Be sure that you have most of your human relationships sorted out, that you are living in harmony with human relationship. Because if you do not do that, you will use and abuse that pet. So clear up your life first. Be mature to be able to take on the responsibility of an animal, which we call a pet, because it's a high responsibility. It's our little brother and sisters. And if we do it carefully and lovingly, that animal can develop marvelously. But if we mistreat it and only use it for selfish reasons, it suffers. And the other important thing is also, animals come to us, they want to help us, they're very close to us, they believe in us, but they also are very close to our aura. And our aura is all the mess as well, the good things as well as the bad things, all our habits, our vices, our negativity, our negative thoughts, etc. They're all in our aura. And when the animal constantly is with us very close, like for instance, sleeping at night with us, it is enveloped in our negative aura. And it's no wonder that animals, pet particularly, taking on so many of the human illnesses, cancer, diabetes, and so on,
Mm,
which is totally unknown in the animal
mhm,
kingdom.
mhm,
But
mhm.
because they live so close vibrationally with us, and the whole universe, as I in one of my video, everything is energy and vibration, is only vibration and energy. That's all what we are. That's all it is. And our vibration, our aura is sent out and it affects other creatures like other animals. And our negative vibration creates a lot of harm towards other animals and can be, it can also help animals. It's not all negative. But most people are really thinking of themselves when they think about how does this pet serve me or how can it,
Mhm.
that I, yeah, so this is basically a substitute for the lover I always wished I had.
Okay, so when we look out into the world today, we're kind of a far piece away from being in this circle of service and love. We've got laboratory animals that are being abused and tested on. We've got animals in captivity. We've got animals that are confined in factory farms. Oh my gosh. I mean, we can just keep going on and on. Wild Mustangs, I've been reading about the wild Mustangs that are being rounded up and sent to slaughterhouses. I can go on and on. Dogs and cats that are stuck in shelters. And so, we're so far, this is our current reality. This is our current reality that we've really fallen away from this original uh, wonderful circle of love and service. So, I mean, what do you think that is about? Do you think that's just about the fall, and do we have a path back?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a result of the fall. As I've mentioned at the beginning, as we have created our free will. God gave us a free will. The higher we evolved from the mineral, plant, and animals to the spirit being, the free will it was the biggest gift God gave us. And through that decision, we've decided to leave the absolute reality. And the moment we left the absolute reality, we didn't have any more the constant flow of energy from divinity. So we had to find sources to get energy, to live, to survive. And here on Earth, we started off originally, I guess, with, well, like the Bible said, we started with the grasses, with the seed of the grasses, and then from the trees and so on, vegetarian. And slowly, more and more people became more and more greedy and needy, and it evolved to eating other things like other creatures, like animals, and so on, to get basically energy. And it's all about energy. And the more we go downhill, the more selfish we become, more angry we become, more self centered we become, the more energy we need, and the more harm we do around us. But all the harm we are doing around us, we're doing to ourselves. And everything what we have done to the animal comes back to us, to all the animals, whether we mistreated them in any ways, it always comes back to us. This is a law. This is a realm of cause and effect. So all the negativity and the pain and suffering we do to animals come to us. And we see this in our illnesses, which we have, which come largely through the wrong diets we are having and so on, meat diet and processed food diet and so on. We are getting sick. And the animal uh, experiments to find new medicine and so on won't help us here much because these are the lifestyle illnesses, and another pill or another kind of injection of something like this may temporarily release us, but it doesn't take the cause away. And the cause is always selfish lifestyle against the law of love. And but I believe that eventually this will all come to an end. People will realize that this is not the way to go, and they will return back to the absolute reality that everybody has to. Now, the earth may become more and more difficult here to survive, and the very negative and burdened souls will have less and less opportunity to incarnate here. But the pain we have inflicted individually and collectively on the animals world, on the plant kingdom, as well as the mineral kingdom, that is something we all have to deal with in this or another lifetime. Because we have been given very clear distinction, instruction from divinity. We have got the Ten Commandments and the Sermon on the Mount, and they all speak of love and kindness and mercifulness. And that means to all kingdoms, not us, only human beings.
Yes, I wanna ask you a question about what you said, because you said something about how not all of us will have an opportunity to incarnate here again. Did you say that?
Yes.
Can you expound on that a little
But
bit?
the Earth will change onto a higher vibration.
Okay.
The reason why we suddenly have 8 billion people is because 8 billion souls really thought this is a unique time to incarnate, because here we can clean up as much karma as possible. That's why we have got this tremendous explosion of human on this planet Earth. Until the 120 years ago, the average number of humans was around 1.5 billion people. And then suddenly, 8 billion people. Why? Not because of the medical advances, but because the soul decided this is going to be a very tough period on planet Earth. I want to be there, and the more tough life I experience here, the more karma I can undo on myself. And that's why there so many souls have incarnated here, because it will be a difficult time to come. There are a lot of stuff, the structures of economy, of finance, and so on, will collapse in different countries at different times. There may be wars and so on. I don't want to get too gloomy, but the thing
Hmm.
is that Earth goes to a cleansing period. It's like giving birth. It's a painful period, I understand. I've never done it, but I understand it's difficult.
It is.
Very difficult. But once the baby is there, it's great. Now, the
Yeah.
baby
Yeah.
will be the new Earth, and the new Earth will be on a higher vibration. Thus, those souls of very low vibration are not no longer able to come here to planet Earth to undo their karma. They have to do that in the astral spheres. And that means expiation, that they feel the karma there. Here we can undo the karma through forgiveness and making amends. There, it's not possible. And that's where the difficulty is. So let's use our time here as much as we can to forgive and help and serve and learn to love.
Well, that's an incentive. I think that's really an interesting model. I like that a lot. So if we don't do our work here, and I think that includes restoring this balance with the animals, if we don't do our work here, we're going to have to do it in another realm and it's going to be harder there.
Yeah. Because the thing is, in the other realms, we are only we are among similar souls. Like we are, like attracts like is the law of the universe. So we come, if all the murderers are together and all the et ceteras or the Catholics are together and so on. So when you are surrounded by same type of people, that's painful. That is where you you're reinforcing the same beliefs. And here on planet
Ah,
Earth, souls from all different kinds of level of development can incarnate. And because we have the exchange of different views and understanding, we can learn and we can grow and help each other so much more. It's a very rare opportunity. It's a very rare planet Earth, because it does allow vibrationally souls from all different types of consciousness to incarnate at the same time.
well, and I think that gives us a whole nother way of looking at the division that's going on the planet, that there's something really good about that. I mean, it's like the division is it's not healthy because we are all one, but the fact that because we are different, we can learn from each other. We can grow through each other.
Yeah,
And so that's a gift. It's not just this horrible thing that we need to just get rid of.
it's a
That
double-edged sword. You can also tell
yeah,
somebody something negative. That's possible.
right.
Oh, if he
Right.
can do it, I can do it too. But as a main role, we see alternatives, and suddenly, oh, that person is much more happier, much more relaxed. What is he or she doing, etc. So we can really find our way by just looking at other people whom we feel have got all the answers or all the characteristics which we admire and we would want in ourselves.
Mm. Yeah, I love really thinking about the privilege it is to be on this planet.
Yeah,
That we're able to grow and we're able to heal and work off the karma, and also just behold all of these huge thousands of millions of different species and beings and people and ideas,
yeah.
a variety, and what a privilege that is. And it's something that we don't really behold, we get annoyed by.
Yeah, it's a beautiful planet. It's an absolutely beautiful planet. So yeah, we just sort of not respect it sufficiently. That's a sad thing. But I guess we only learn through insight or pain. So if we don't learn it through insight and make our changes, we will learn it through pain. So and that's basically as a society as well as individually. That's the only way
Yeah,
to learn is through insight, through understanding and changing, or through pain. And if we don't, it's a hard way to learn. And that's why I said earlier, some
yeah,
of those have to learn the pain way in the astral spheres if they don't use the opportunity here to cleanse as much as they can from their karma.
yeah. I prefer insight.
Yeah, that's true. I think.
I'm not sure the collective does, though. So I got to ride that.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so we've talked about how animals and humans are in this circle of love and service. That was kind of a original design and how far we've come from that. I find people so resistant to that idea. I mean, so resistant that they defend against anything. Like animals are definitely here for us. Don't mess with my diet. I tried that once. I got sick. It just doesn't work. So, what do you think is happening with people?
Well, there are many reasons. First of all, sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, the abrupt change is not really working for most of us. It should be a slow and general change because we have been most likely been meat eater for many, many lifetimes before. So making it overnight have negative, disastrous effects. And one of the main reasons is that we like that some people like the taste and the texture of meat. Meat itself, as we know, has no real taste. We have to put a lot of pepper and salt into it to make it
And we
somehow.
have to cook it.
So basically, we are eating tasteless kind of rubber, but we make it nice and can do a lot of stuff, and people like that taste. It's that we are used to that, and of course, in many ways the diet is also something which we inherit from our parents. And there we are very attached to all the beliefs we pick up from our parents. It can be religious beliefs, it can be a racial belief, whatever it is. We are attached to these beliefs and we believe that what our parents ate and our grandparents ate and so on must be good. And I couldn't just suddenly challenge it and so on. And also being the one sore thumb sticking out at the Thanksgiving dinner and it does the meat, it's maybe not everybody ready to do that. So there are many, many reasons why we don't want to do that. And I understand it. I went through all of them. I'm still sometimes struggling with it because it was a lovely dish. I'm not saying I'm right there. And I sometimes eat fish, and I also eat fish. And Gabriele says it very clearly. If you're invited and people make some dinner out of meat or out of love, eat it. It will not harm you. It will harm you more if you stand up and give a long lecture that nobody at the table should eat the meat. That will harm you. But the meat that you eat at that moment, if it's done in love, eat it quietly and let it be, and that's it. I found it very, very interesting
That's
because
kind of a Buddhist approach, I think. Yeah, yeah,
well, probably it is.
yeah, yeah.
It's because the moment we run around and want everybody to change to vegetarian as well, we are probably not quite convinced ourselves. It's like everything we try to tell other people of how they should is something which we ourselves are not certain. Anything what we know for sure, we don't have to talk about. And if we are totally sure about our vegetarian lifestyle, it really comes up. It doesn't mean that we couldn't promote books and tell people about it, but it always depends on what is behind it. Because is it really my own not quite being convinced about it, or is it really coming out of love? And I think I found this always very important when I do my videos. Why do I do this? Do I do this? Am I not quite sure about it myself? Do I have to learn it myself still? Why do I so that I do not become missionizing or proselytizing? Because as long as I do that, I can tell myself I'm not believing it myself. It hasn't really become truth in myself.
Hmm. Okay, because I was kind of wondering, I think a lot of people who are activists uh, really just think that if people really knew that animals are treated so cruelly in the laboratory, for example, or on a factory farm or at the circus or whatever, if people really knew that their hearts would open and that they would change. But most people just don't know, and I think that's why some people share about that because the idea is that if when I found out, I changed, but I didn't know before that. When I found out, I was glad to know. But I do agree, forcing your beliefs on anybody just creates a defense. But I'm really wondering though, are we in a state of evolution spiritually where maybe some people just aren't ready for that and other people are, and eventually we'll give up anything at all and we'll end up just, not needing to sustain our bodies with plants or anything. Do you think or do the teachings have anything to say about that?
Well, eventually we will all return back to the higher vibration where we do
Yeah.
not need as much energy at all or come to just only juice, whatever. It depends on which astral spheres we ours feel attracted to, eventually we don't need. And in the absolute reality, there is no food because
Yes,
everything,
right.
every cell of our body is enlivened and invigorated by the breath of God, so to speak, by divinity, by the light. But here on Earth, we still need to eat, but it also depends on how we use our energy. If we use our energy negatively in many ways, we need more energy. If we just if we are a very destructive person, self-centered, that person needs far more energy because that person produces so much negative energy, so it consumes more. If we are, and there's a definitely reason that most vegetarian are more calmer people, more quiet people. They are not the big fighters and so on. They are more relaxed. Thus, they need less food as well because they are
Hmm.
not so hyper aggressive
Hmm.
for most.
That's interesting. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. And I also kind of want to not just focus on food, because I think that if we focus on this idea that we are in this cycle of love and service, that if we just start like playing with that, like if we just start like walking out in the world and recognizing, oh, that fly, oh, that bee, oh, that bird, oh, that squirrel, whatever, and like you say, the little organisms in the ground, if we start just playing with the idea, even if we don't believe it yet, that they're here to serve us and that I'm here to serve them, I think this that has to kind of shift maybe how we live eventually. And that maybe it's just that thought that we want to impart to people today through this conversation.
I have a video called How to Listen to the Animals, to the Plants, and to the Minerals, and that basically covers it very well, what you just said. Because life, a definition of life is communication. Everything communicates with everything. And as I've said earlier, we human beings have beings in all other representation of life forms around us, and every animal and any tree and any bush and every flower. We have gone through it. So it's part of us. It's absolutely natural to communicate because that essence is in us. So when we walk around nature, we see flowers looking at us. It wants to communicate with us. Each blossom wants to communicate. Each leaf, each tree, each bush, and grass, bladder grass wants to communicate. That is a natural way of being. That is life. Life is a giving and taking continuously. So if, as Gabi suggests, stop and don't look at a flower from your head. Oh, this is a lovely rose. She uses the word behold the flower, which means
Mm.
take it in inwardly. Don't use any thoughts. Look at the plant, behold it, go to the essence of the flower and take it within yourself. And maybe something comes up, an image, a word, a sentence, something like this. That is the message coming from nature. And it doesn't come from nature, really. It comes from God. God speaks to us all the time through everything around us. Wherever we look, God speaks to us. Why? Because wherever we look, we see ourselves. And we are here to wake up. Whatever we disturb, whatever bothers us in the outside world is a mirror image of ourselves. So that person upsets me. Thus, there is in me the same kind of quality which I don't like in this person is in me. Everything here is here to serve us, to help us, and everything here is medicine to wake us up and to return back to the absolute high evolved spiritual state which we all once have been.
Yeah, it just really shifts everything. And I think about, recently there was a kind of a rescue effort in Wisconsin, this Ridgeland Beagle farm where they're doing a lot of testing on these beagles, and I think about 1,500 have been pulled out of the testing facility, and it's gotten a lot of national news. But I think people can identify with beagles. They're just sweet animals, and I feel that when we're purchasing products that are participating in this kind of torture of animals, we're taking this away from another human being. I mean, another human being has to do something horrible to this animal in order to do the experiment. And so not only is it really awful for the animal who is here to serve us and love us, but that person, in order to do what they must do for their job, cannot behold the animal. If they paused and beheld the animal, they couldn't do what they have to do in order to make the money that they need to make in order to feed their family. So it's this whole system that we're kind of stuck in, and we're taking this away from people too.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, it's also whatever, and he says whatever product we are buying has a vibration of the manufacturer. I mean, the vibration of the suffering of the animals is in that cosmetic,
Yeah.
taking or drink or whatever I take to myself. That energy goes right through, and also the state of mind of the person who created this piece of work or whatever the product. Also, the vibration is in it. Whatever we consume, whatever we touch, has the vibrations of the makers. And particularly if there's sort of animal suffering involved there, that is in all these products. And we take it onto ourselves, into our body, onto our body, and it just it adds up. And
Yeah.
our
You're,
vibration lower and lower.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. And, everything's energy. I want to shift just briefly about Jesus and the Christ, because a lot of people use Jesus as, he he ate fish, he ate lamb. It's like, well, I don't think so. But anyway, he also was like, blessed are the merciful and blessed are the peacemakers. And I don't know how you could be a teacher of mercy and not and be authentically the Christ nature and not be mercy itself. And so to me, that's what I point to versus some of these stories about him. What do you think?
An excellent thought. It never entered my mind. I never thought about the way you put it together. I think it's excellent. It makes total sense. To be merciful, it just doesn't mean only to other human beings. You could not have the cruelty and on animals and still think you're a merciful person.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
doesn't work together. It also implies not only the animal, also means the nature. I mean, how we sort of hurt nature as well, the trees and etc. around us, how we really, that is part of being merciful, is to be very conscientious and careful with what we use, consume, and what we do. It goes much broader than just only the animals, but the animals is definitely a clear sign. And in the revelations which came through Gabi from Christ and so on, he says that he always emphasizes to not eat the meat, and he did not eat the meat, particularly with the example of the fish. Multiplication of fish, he points out that these fishes were an example to teach a person a lesson at the time, and they were dead. He did not kill them, they were dead, and he used that, and they basically created, as he said, created them out of light ether, these 5,000 fishes. So they're never real fishes, but they were there to an example for the people to understand a certain message. Next.
Have you ever watched Jesus movies where they're showing the feeding of the 4,000, the 5,000, they're showing the multiplication of the food? It's always interesting. I've seen so many of these Jesus movies, and they pass these baskets of bread and fish. Everybody who's sitting there takes the bread. Nobody takes the fish.
I love it.
I mean, like, how would that look? Like, I'm going to take this fish and just like chew into it?
Never thought about it. I love it. It's great.
It's so funny. It's like, in the end, there's got to be a lot of fish, unless somebody brought hibachis, I mean, hibachis and matches.
That's a wonderful.
It's a funny thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stories in the Bible, they have a lot of people working on them, and the essence. We have to take the essence from the Bible, not word by word. It's not.
Yeah, right. What I do with the Bible is I start with my complete experience and understanding of God. God is all love. God is universal love. God is wisdom, and God is harmony, and God is mercy. And so to me, when I see verses in the Bible that go against that, I have to question whether those verses are truth or not, because it is written by man. And I think you did a video on the first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me, and how many gods that we worship. Well, I think sometimes we worship the Bible. Some people worship the Bible as a thing into itself, like it is God, or even higher than God, like it is this ultimate truth. And I think it gets really, really messy because it's full of I don't want to say contradictions, but different stories that depict God in completely different ways. Sometimes he's loving, and sometimes he wants people to go in and rape and pillage and burn everybody up. It can't be the same. So we've got to know that there's error in the Bible, and that there's false and truth in the Bible, just like, the rest of life.
I agree with you. I believe the Ten Commandments and the Sermon on the Mount,
Yeah.
it is probably the purest teaching we can find in the Bible. And then what the prophets, some of the prophets saying as well, what the prophets are saying, that the teachings of the prophets, but all the rest are horror stories.
I agree. The prophets to me were always the correctors.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah,
okay, you guys say this, but wait a minute, wait a minute.
right. Yeah, the prophets I can handle for most of them, but yeah, that's it.
They were like Gabriele. They were like receiving, and they were
Yeah,
in more of an direct communication with God. And like, okay, let me set the record straight. God doesn't want sacrifice. Stop that.
yeah. What would
Yeah,
God want to have his animal died for him? The logic itself makes no
yeah,
sense. Why would a
yeah.
creator God want to have one of his creations killed to please him? I mean,
I
this
know.
that is crazy. But there we are.
Yeah.
We did this for thousands of years. Animal
Yeah,
sacrifice.
yeah. And people are afraid, and people are afraid that if I don't believe a certain way, that something bad's gonna happen to me. And again, that's just something where it's like being afraid of death, and it's like being, really immersed in the physical world, the material world. When you really get that God is universal love, then I think there is no fear. You really step into that whole energetic space. So, well, anyway, I think this has been fun. Is there anything else you want to share about your videos or about animals? I really want people to not go away with thinking we're trying to say everyone needs to go vegan. I think what we're trying to do is just share a vibrant, high energy, exciting way to look at creation and our place in it. And perhaps that will shift how we live.
You're doing a great job with all your videos on that one. I really admire you doing that, Carol, and you're doing sort of, it helps people. And sometimes it needs people have to listen, hear the story over and over again, and eventually, oh yes, it makes sense. I didn't agree with everything right away either. I was fighting a lot of spiritual stuff. As I said, makes no sense. I can't handle that. But the more I grew, the more I understood that deep down there is a truth which, in my personal opinion, is totally unimportant in this one. The truth is eternal. And eventually we all got there. Everybody will be saved. Everybody will return home. Everybody will come to the absolute reality again. Nobody will be left behind. Nobody is condemned in eternal hell and all this kind of crap. We all will have our way, and we all find our way. And as long as we try to remember that we are here for a very, very short time, it's a great opportunity. It's a gift to be incarnated here for those 30,000 hours. That's all we are based
Mhm.
as an average. And we can do so much good in these 30,000 hours. And that is from day to day our opportunity to do in this way. And we do it to human beings. And the more we do it for the animals, even better. They love us. They love us totally, full-heartedly. Look into the eyes of the animals, and you hear and you feel what they are going to tell us and want to tell us.
Yes, yes. I know we're closing, but I just have one last question. Because there's like, just looking at farm animals, there's like, I think we kill something like 40 some billion animals a year. So where are they all going after they die? I mean, are they coming back as animals? I mean, you say eventually they move up, but there's only 8 billion of us, and there's like 80 billion of them. So do the teachings tell us anything about that?
Well, first of all, take the fact that the 8 billion human beings incarnate is only a small fraction of the trillions of spirit beings who are still outside of the absolute reality.
Okay.
Inside the absolute, even far more. Compared to our material universe is like one kernel of sand in the desert. The desert is the absolute reality. It's only a small group which have left and have created this nonsense. So there are a lot of more animals out there, animal stages, and only if you say 40 billions have incarnated, that is only a small little drop in the ocean of all the animals, which are animal souls or part souls, which are available. But all these animals are here, and many of the part souls, yes, they do incarnate again. They come again and again. And this is very interesting to realize that if somebody really mistreats an animal like a dog on chain, etc., and tortures it, and so on, that animal can definitely reincarnate as a higher evolved being, like, for instance, a lion and so on. And one day this guy goes out on a safari and gets killed by a lion. That part soul is
Mm-hmm.
back to the person who has once hurt that soul in the earlier stage. So it can come back again. So the animal who suddenly we think out of a blue, suddenly attack us or whatever it is, yeah, there may be something which it may be related to previous lifetime. That animal recognize something in us. Animals are so much more smarter. They look at us and they see us totally because they can read our
Mm-hmm.
aura. They can see our pictures. They can see who we are. We can't do this anymore. Most of us can't. But the animals sees a much, much deeper depth image of us than we can see of each other and of the animal. So they know whom they are having in front of them, whether it's somebody who is going to hurt them or to love them or who may have hurt them in the past.
Mm. Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that for me. I just feel inspired to go out there and just love everybody.
Good, good.
Love everybody and just be gifted. The other day, we were driving up my driveway, and off to the side of my driveway, there was a mother rabbit nursing her babies.
Oh, I've never seen that. Lovely.
I know. It's like, wow, what a gift. It's like for some reason she decided to show this to us.
Oh,
And it was incredible. It's everyday occurrence for her and her babies, but it was a real gift. And it felt very, very divine. It felt really, really like, wow, we're such lucky souls to be able to behold this.
aren't they the cutest little animals, the baby
Oh,
bugs?
they're so cute.
Oh,
Yeah, they are so cute. I know.
yeah,
They're
I've
so
got them in
cute.
the garden here as well. They hop around and then the babies come out, but I've never seen a nursing incident.
No, I know. It was funny. She did get disturbed, and then she ran down the hill, and all the babies just all darted in different
Oh,
directions. But anyway, I'm sure she came back and found them. Well, Hans, this has been so fun. I really appreciate you being willing to tackle this topic, and I really appreciate the video that you have on it. I think it does awaken a lot of people. I know it irritates others, and it's there to do its thing. And I just really appreciate this conversation, and I'm hoping people are inspired to behold the animals.
and it's a joy to speak with you, and your job, the work you're doing is fantastic, Carol, and I wish you good luck with your workshop on animals and so on. This sounds really fascinating, and
Thank you.
maybe meet next year again and have some.
Yes, yeah, we'll meet next year again. I'll pick another set of videos. All right, thanks a lot. And everybody, thank you for listening. And I now close the Spiritual Forum. Thanks for listening. If you like what you've heard here, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, or a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. You can also sign up for my weekly newsletter or make a donation to support this work at thespiritualforum.org. Tune in every week and remember, you are a divine creation, perfect and whole, just as you are.